to the national look and one of the more outspoken writers, Dan Wetzel of Yahoo Sports. Dan, the local call is for more change, that Luanna K. Simon's resignation was simply not enough. From a national perspective, Larry Nassar is more well known as the U.S. Olympics gymnastics doctor. So how much blame nationally is being placed on Michigan State for the crimes that Nassar committed?
Well, I think a lot, because the majority of the victims, they are high profile, like the gymnasts. But most of the victims are from the mid-Michigan area and went to see him in his role as an MSU doctor, and that was where he was an employee. USA Gymnastics has its own, is almost like two separate cases. They have their own failures and questions and crimes that occurred with them, and then you have the Michigan State one, where he's really treating Lansing area natives and things like that. So I don't think Michigan State can hide from the fact they employed him for all these years.
Dan, future investigations will hopefully uncover what exactly was known, who knew it, and when they knew it. But how fair is it to say that Luanna K. Simon's absence at the beginning of and attitude during the victim testimony turned the national tide against Michigan State?
I think it was local, too, and alumni, too. I mean, I think her, tone deafness, her inability to show up at the hearing, just kind of cemented what a lot of people thought she was about. And it's not an admission of guilt to show up and apologize, to sit and listen, to learn, to offer yourself private conversations with victims, to get yelled at, to get blamed, to get yelled at, and take it. It might be uncomfortable, but what these girls and women went through is far worse. And so for her to take the easy way out and not show up, to me, spoke, and I think it spoke to a lot of the victims of how they're not taking their role seriously here. And that's what I think Luanna K. Simon needed to step down, because there's no confidence she can lead this. We don't know her role criminally or anything else. And one of the problems with that is we haven't had an investigation into Michigan State. The Attorney General of Michigan did not investigate Michigan State the way the Pennsylvania Attorney General did Penn State at the same time. And so I don't know what we're going to get now out of the Attorney General's review, which is very late, and almost no one's going to cooperate with, because at this point, everyone's going to take their right to remain silent if you have any real information on this case. So I'm not sure we'll ever know what Michigan State's culpability here is.
Dan, you brought up Penn State, so let's continue there. Today, the Michigan State student body president was quoted as saying, "We're worse than Penn State." The comparisons are already being made. Are those comparisons fair, or are we talking about two very different stories here?
Look, there's similarities here, but they're not the same. And I don't know that at this point you have, mainly because of the failure of the Michigan Attorney General to actually investigate the school, you don't have the kind of evidence against Michigan State that you do against Penn State. Now, if you want to talk about reaction to it or caring or things like that, you might be able to have that debate. But on the same day they indicted Sandusky, they indicted 3 administrators at Penn State, including the president. And they were able to show that the administration at Penn State knew in 2001 when Mike McQueary came up that this was the second time Jerry Sandusky was showering alone with boys. And at that point, it's hard to give anybody the benefit of doubt that they're not calling the police. You don't have that evidence at this point against Michigan State. You have many failed, certainly not the senior leadership. You have many failures. We have many questions. There may be that. But in absence of a real investigation that should have already occurred, I don't know that we'll get there. I hope, but we're going to have to wait and see.
Dan, I think it's fair to say the one comparison we can all make is both those cases, Penn State and Michigan State. They provided us with moments that have left us shaking our head in incredulity, with moments that have left us sick to our stomach, reading accounts of what happened. For you personally, covering this, being there for part of this, what moment gave you the most visceral reaction?
Yeah, I covered both Penn State, both Sandusky trials and all of that, and this. When it came to Michigan State, just the sheer volume of these women, but the one that really stands out to me was a 15-year-old girl the other day who got up to speak. And you think about a high school sophomore, let's say she has to give a presentation to her history class. She's nervous that morning. She's, practicing. It's nerve-wracking. She might not want to do it. this girl and so many others walked into a courtroom, talked about the worst day of her life, incredibly private information, sensitive information, in front of the child molester, the judge, 150 people in the audience, and a whole bunch of TV cameras. And you watch them shake, or the paper's moving, the tears, and you watch them power through this and do it. Incredible courage and very moving to watch. And as much as it was heart-wrenching and terrible, it was also very empowering and powerful moments. So I think I'll always remember all these women coming forward, and as 168 victim statements, they became a roar that was impossible for the country to ignore. And the country really wasn't paying attention to the story when it started.
Remarkably well said. Dan Wetzel, Yahoo Sports, truly appreciate your time.
Thank you. Take care.